Welcome back to the AI Executive Morning Buzz, your weekly guide to navigating the rapidly evolving world of AI. I'm Albert Ramos, joined by my co hosts, Jason Hess and Nick James. First off, before I get into the topics, I just wanted to say thank you to our audience. We've officially crossed the 1,000 mark for subscribers on YouTube. We have a ton growing on LinkedIn, X, and all of our platforms. Thank you so much for joining us in the morning, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7:30 Central, as well as watching our long form AI Executive podcast. And we already have 25 plus episodes coming your way, and we're looking to triple that by end of year. So excited. Jason, Nick, thanks so much. You all have been amazing with your insights. People are loving what you're providing. You're bringing a lot of value, and I'm looking forward to this morning as well. But congratulations. Sam in the background as well has been a big
It's a big milestone. It's when we first started this 2 months ago, we didn't expect to have 1,000 subscribers in the first 2 months, but no, we've really hit a market and we hit our ideal customers and people love it so far. So it's been great.
I don't know if you all can hear that in the background. I had the firefighters in Florida just raise all their alarms. It's 1,000 subscribers. It was perfect timing. And this is the beauty of going live sometimes. You never know what's going to happen behind the scenes. So if you heard all those sirens, it was for our 1,000 plus subscribers. And here we go. Cheers to tripling and quadrupling.
Great job, Albert.
Yeah, I don't know. They're great friends. All right. So today we're going to chat about some great stuff. Actually, I'm really excited about today. We're going to talk about some new, we knew it was coming. It was kind of quiet out there for a couple of weeks, but some new AI company developments from OpenAI, Anthropic, Microsoft, and some others. We'll then switch gears into ROI. A lot of our audience is talking about this. As you propose to invest in AI, included in that needs to be ROI. Or if you have been integrating, how are you benchmarking? How are you measuring ROI? So we'll provide some great best practices. And then as always, we want to also include some AI strategic development. So we'll jump right in. One of the first things that I'd love to chat about, Jason, I'll shoot it over to you first. Let's talk about OpenAI. They just came out and launched their Pioneers program. What is that? What's the new initiative all about?
Yeah, so OpenAI, they've had a couple announcements over the past few days. The first one was their Pioneers program. And they're shifting from the general intelligence benchmarking test to be more specialized. So now the Pioneers program is going to be able to be specialized on law, on finance, on healthcare and accounting, and it's going to give you engage how well their models are responding to each of those different industries. So instead of just, the random numbers of, we are 67%, and we just exceeded Gemini's 2.5 model. So we're going to get away from that and get more into how these affect specific industries. So I think it's a good move forward and a good pivot to be able to really focus on that, because we've gotten to a point where those benchmark settings don't mean anything to anyone.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. And it actually reflects what we're doing on the AI Executive podcast. We're hitting every single industry, and it's not cookie cutter approach to AI initiatives or even the benchmarking, to your point, because we've seen studies out there and I'm like, well, that doesn't necessarily apply. It doesn't really mean anything, individually and custom made for each one of those industries. So I love that OpenAI is doing this. And to your point, law, actually, I just saw a funny video overnight where you had someone that was in an appeals court and decided to be represented by an AI avatar. The judge did not like that, but I thought it was pretty creative. Yeah, and the AI avatar lawyer was pretty good. I mean, he was pretty convincing, but the judge, she started to scream. She was like, "Turn that off!" But it is a wake up call. I really believe in, and we'll have some pretty great guests coming up, especially in the legal industry, on the podcast. And, they were challenging me back that they don't think that's where it's going. And I do. I think that's where it's going. So, Jason, to your point, some of these initiatives like OpenAI's Pioneers program, driving and waking people up in many industries that maybe have been lumped up or maybe forgotten or flying under the radar. Law is a big one. Education is a big one. Manufacturing is a big one. Nick, thoughts on that and thoughts about where this is all going? I think this is something that executives should really pay attention to.
That was the whole reason White Glove AI was stood up in the first place. Like that's why we started, right? I mean, it's in the name, right? It's very apparent why we exist. We're here to tailor fit AI. So that
Mm.
we saw a lot of general use cases, but the problem is no matter how shiny your tool, right? You could be selling a screwdriver for all I care, right? If there isn't a screw that matches the head on the screwdriver in your business, then the screwdriver is useless. It could be the fat, it could be gold plated, it could be dipped in gold. Like it doesn't matter. There's no value to businesses if that screwdriver doesn't match a screw head in your business. So I think it's a great move, and I think that pairing that with live use cases, with success stories from each industry is going to be really powerful.
I love that. Well, switching gears because that wasn't the only headliner, right? We also had some others, and Jason, I'd love to come back to you just on Anthropic, right? So they just introduced their Max subscription. Right? We have all these different layers and different tiers, but Anthropic came out with their Max subscription tiers for Claude, and so I'd love to chat with both of you. Jason, let's start with you on just the technical and what's going on there, and then Nick, I'd love to talk about just the pricing strategy, right? I think a lot of people are out there are trying to figure out you have that like SaaS based monthly subscription, and then we were chatting about this the other day around, getting my especially from a finance end on pricing strategy, usage, tokens, pricing strategy. It's very different. So I'd love to, Jason, start with you on the
Sure.
technical for Anthropic and Claude.
Yeah, so Claude released their Claude Max. It's a $100 and a $200,
Wow.
and what it gives you is a 5 times and 20 times increased usage limits, and that's it. So I think it's a big miss.
Mm,
I don't. You're not getting any new features. It's with OpenAI, with Gemini, you're getting more features with the more costly models. I think that Claude is now a tier 2 model. I don't think that it
mm,
is, 6 months ago, it was neck and neck with OpenAI. I feel like they're losing traction. They're finally released web search on their interface. I think they're slowly just trying to catch up, and they've just got surpassed by Gemini and OpenAI. I don't see why I would want to pay $200 just for usage limits when I can go to any of these other model providers and get it much cheaper and much easier.
Does it compare at all to the deep research or what OpenAI put out there, right? That PhD level. I started using it actually, and I was pretty impressed. Now, it obviously took forever, and I was because I'm so used to like
The speed.
instantaneous output. But then I started to see, you can see in the notes what it's researching and all the sources, and then what it spit out. And I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty good. Now, would I pay $200 for it? Probably not. I don't know. Maybe eventually I will.
No, I don't think the quality's there because all
Yeah.
you're not getting improved responses. You're just
Mhm.
getting more responses, and I don't think that's worth it.
Yeah, it's more responses, and I think what I really enjoyed is seeing how it was layering in the sources, and maybe that's where it is. It's like, okay, now if I really need to go in more and find out more, maybe deep dive into those sources and pull it back into a, 4.5 or whatever, or maybe even
Well, 4.5. Their OpenAI last night kind of said we missed on this one. We're going to deprecate that. We're going to focus on 5, and
right.
they released their 4.1, just the API, so just for developers, as a new model that OpenAI is pushed out. I don't think it's groundbreaking, but it has a pretty big context window, and it's all for API use, so it's all for developer use.
It's interesting, and Nick, we'll get to the pricing, but the marginal curve, right? Are we at a point where they need a significant shock? And maybe it's already there; it just hasn't been introduced. But we're starting to see some diminishing returns in a sense as these new tiers come up, and I'd imagine it's to stay relevant, right, Claude? We need to stay relevant. We need to push something out new, open AI and some others, right? But we're obviously wanting something. As we get closer to AGI, I think that's what we're looking for. But who knows, Nick? On
You know,
the
Claude had the market on coding, and then Google came out, and I mean that's all the craze now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the context window, it's the amount of there's no token limits. Like, Claude is famously known for their token tiers, and where You have thresholds and throughput limits. Google just destroyed that. So I think I'm with Jason on this one. I think I always had a sort of a kinship appreciation for Claude because of how much they focused on safety and security. I think that'll always be there, but I'm not sure what their angle is here. Even if you look at the new pricing, it just says you get more. It
Right.
doesn't say how much more. It just says
Right.
you get
It's
more. And
better.
then the bigger plan says you get even more.
Right.
I'm like, what does that mean? How am I supposed to cost plan for that? So yeah, I don't know.
It's the
I'm a little
psychological
silent.
warfare. It's the
I'm a little
psychological
silent.
warfare.
It is, but I would not be surprised if Cloud dropped like one giant bomb at some point.
Hmm.
So I'm just waiting.
But I'm
I
not
am.
sure that they will. I think they
You
have
don't think
real
so?
and I was impressed with them in the beginning also, and hearing Dario speak
Mm.
and focus on safety and focus on their constitutional AI. I think they're so focused and they're so rigid about the research part that they're not focusing on what the customers are looking at, and that's why they're getting bypassed. I don't know if they're going to come up with some big bang because they're always going to be focused on that security and safety piece.
Or maybe it's just niche, right? Like maybe that's their focus, and it's like we're not going to do anything else, and that's where we're gonna. By the way, I wanted to go back to it. So I go to this place called Lumen Fitness, right? And it's a immersive AI powered studio concept. Pretty cool. And so I was on a free trial, and now I'm in the point where you're like purchasing, right? Because I want to do more of these classes. Pretty cool. It's a different experience. There's a camera, it watches your reps. There's some gamification on the immersive screen, um, but I'm paying in token credits, and it just got me thinking. Well, this is odd. Like, can you just tell me? Can I just pay for like a $50, $100 membership, please? Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out these tokens and how it matches. But it started getting me thinking because you see that in some of these platforms as well. And I know there's a lot of businesses coming out and this pricing strategy on usage. Can you all walk through that? Like, how do you price that out on a usage basis, right? Clearly, the power and the tokens required for this deep research is far more expensive, hence the price point.
Right.
Can you all break that down for the audience and for me?
Well, it is a different approach on usage. GenSpark, they go on a token usage,
Mhm.
and they're not transparent on how they define their token usage. So I ran out of my tokens in the first week of a month long. So now I've got 3 weeks of waiting for it to reset, and
It's like a
not a big fan
Netflix
of that. So I
series.
don't like that. I don't like when you say it's a token, but it's not transparent of what that token cost is,
Mm,
because I may rewrite my prompts. I may provide different responses because of that, because I don't want to waste all my tokens all in once. So I understand why people are doing it. I don't quite agree with it right now.
yeah.
So a lot of us are beholden. Like I just went through a pricing refresh on Lucidus, our internal super agent team, like we like to call it. And a lot of what we do, and some of the tactics that we use in the market where our application, um, either the tactics will differ based on whether we host our own model or we're using a public API.
Hmm.
In both cases, we have limitations. So those limitations are presented as constraints to the user in the forms of token usage. So so here's an extreme example. When Manus says, "Oh, we have a wait list," it makes you feel like, "Oh, you're not a part of the cool kids club if you're not a part of Manus." But really, in the background, what's happening is Manus is saying, we're not at the token tier with Claude because it's a wrapper around a Claude model. We're not at a tier where we can support this many users on our platform or this many users simultaneously using our platform. So we're going to throttle how many users are on our platform. But it presents itself as scarcity or exclusivity or being a part of the cool kids club externally, but really the real reasons behind it are really technical. And then when you have your own model, you then have compute limitations, right? So it always comes down to, there is obviously a cache component to it. There's like a commercial component to it. But at the end of the day, it's really about compute resources and the ability to service users simultaneously on your platform while maintaining reliability and uptime.
Yeah, and I think that's where, as you're thinking about adopting, the diversification of your AI models is
Yeah.
critical.
Hmm.
You cannot just bound yourself to one model like Manus did of Claude, because now you're constrained by their constraints.
Yep.
Where I think GenSpark is very successful is they're offering you up multiple different models. And I
Yeah.
think that is what I advise executives that are thinking about
Yeah.
rolling out a general purpose model in their enterprise. Focus on service or on capabilities like Team GPT or Liminal, where you get 4 or 5 different high-end models across 4 different companies. And then you can start diversifying and being able to ask different questions, being able to get the most out of it. But if you tie yourself to one model, you're dependent on them forever. I think
Bueno,
the
yeah.
diversification is critical.
I think I heard this from one of you, or I heard it out there, but it's like, I don't trust any of them. I use them all. And I really like that, right? Because now there's a positive end, like features, upgrades, updates. But then I really like, I don't trust any of them. I want to see them all. I want to see which
That,
model spits it
that
out.
sounds like something Jason would say.
Was that Jason? Jason, I got that from you. That stuck with me because I thought that was interesting. Yeah, don't get caught up in one model. Use them all, and it's like, yeah, I use them all because I don't trust any of them, and I want to see which comes out with the best output.
Yeah, and that's why I've really focused personally on using Abacus with
I was
their
going to say
route.
Abacus. That's the one you taught me
Yeah,
on.
that
No,
they
that's one.
have their
The
router,
route
and
LLM.
based on the questions, you get the responses. And I've been seeing a lot more responses coming from Gemini models compared
Mm.
to before. It used to be a lot of Claude models.
Interesting. Yeah, let's can we spend just a minute or two on orchestration? I think that there's something really cool about the symphony of models and
Mm.
how a highly efficient and well built orchestration layer sitting on top of all of these models can really delight your users and be more relevant in
Yeah.
delivering what they desire.
Yeah,
Um,
let's jump. Let's
what
jump
are your
there.
thoughts?
Nick, let's jump there. Before I do, though, you mentioned waitlists and cool kids. I'm like, wait a second. I know the best waitlist out there. It's the VCIO waitlist. So I put the link in the
Let's
comments. So if you
go.
want to join the
Yeah.
waitlist, jump on there. We already saw it. I see it in our Slack, and it's just like boom, boom, boom. Since our last episode and last week, I mean, people are filling it out and they're joining. So if you're out there,
Yeah,
some great stuff.
vcio.ai.
That's right.
That one and then 0 to 1labs.com.
Nice.
Make
Let me
sure we
throw that in there
wait
too.
list on, yeah, 0-1.com. Those were revealed yesterday. It was such a hit. Appreciate Samantha in the background, keeping it together, keeping me together. Jason in the comments. It was a really successful event, and I think that took us over that 1,000 threshold, which was amazing. Such a huge milestone for the AI executive. So thank you to everybody who attended.
Where all of your excitement goes into angst on my end of every time I see that coming in Slack, I'm like, oh, I've got to build faster.
That's so funny. Well, let's switch gears. Nick, you wanted to chat about just that the modeling and all of that
Orchestration, yeah, I think
orchestration. I like that.
I always tell executives that each well, not just executives, so to whomever I'm speaking to, I say each model has its own personality, right? It has a very narrow. Some have narrow things that they're very good at, like Claude is really known for coding. Gemini is also known for coding. It's also known for some of its multimodal capabilities, along with its video model, the VO model.
Which is huge.
ChatGPT,
And Albert, I think, spoke about it yesterday
Yeah,
about just being able to drop in a video and summarizing a YouTube video in
yeah,
yeah,
seconds.
loved it.
I
on
love
on Notebook,
the
yeah,
Google model for
on
that.
Notebook. Yeah, like ChatGPT has its generalist, but then there are models that you can select under ChatGPT. So there's a lot of confusion on like what model should I choose? Do I get locked into a model?
Mm,
Like how much am I spending on one model versus the other? But if you can build an orchestration layer, that's what Jason's been, pitching on Abacus, not pitching, but he's a big fan of Abacus because of Route LLM. It routes your request. It analyzes your request first and then picks the best model, the model that
so
would
good.
be best suited to answer your question or request.
Yeah, I think they need to
But
focus on an enterprise license. Right now, they just have a team-based
yeah,
license. If they could get that, they would hit a big market that is really necessary.
Personally, I think that's hyper intelligence, right? Is being able. It's like from a human's perspective, your ability to adapt based on the environment you're in or scenario. That's what Abacus makes me think about. Is you're routing right the output action based on the situation, the scenario, versus a cookie cutter approach. Uh, that is, I mean, we put it in the chat here, abacus.ai. That is intelligence to me. That is awesome.
it is, and honestly, I don't think it's very proprietary to the Abacus team. I know there are a few open source libraries out there that can be easily implemented that perform this sort of routing, intelligent routing. I think one of the ones that I'm familiar with is called DSPY, but I'll probably get fact checked on that.
Hey, speaking of our 1,000+ users, I'm just going to throw this out there. Don't kill me all behind the scenes. Um, but we're being very selective because we've gotten a lot of sponsorship requests as this continues to grow. But if Abacus is listening, I think that'd be a good one. Hyper
That would be
intelligence.
a great one.
I'll promo the what out of that one. That one's great.
Yeah.
All right, switching gears because we need to get into ROI because there's a lot of people reaching out to us about this, and so we're getting a lot of enterprises, small businesses, startups. They're leaning into AI. They know they need to invest in, and many are investing in. So now it's like that next stage. All right, how do I benchmark? How do I know if this is working? And so, Jason, I want to talk about what are some of those, maybe top 2 to 3 metrics. And I know that's a generalized question, right? Because every industry is different. But from your angle, what are those key metrics? And then Nick, effectively using AI to get good ROI. I think a lot of people are missing that. Now it's within our AIAMF framework, right? And I think people, when they get into it, they get excited and then it's like, okay, now we have it. Uh-oh. How do we measure this? How do we benchmark? So I'll start with you, Jason, on just the metrics and just thought
Yeah, I
overall.
think the top three financial metrics that you really want to focus on when you're thinking about designing, how your AI is going to provide cost reduction, revenue growth, and profit margins are the three key metrics that I think are every executive should be thinking about of how they're going to do this,
Mhm.
how they're going to get that ROI out of that. It's not just about cost cutting and reduction of headcount. It's, how are you going to increase revenue? How can you get your application to be much stickier and be more valuable?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, definitely there is that two sides of the spectrum is like how much more efficient can we get on operations, and then on the revenue side, how much more revenue can we bring in because of the use of AI. Our AI Launchpad workshop, keenly focuses on the operational efficiency side. We haven't had any use cases where it's on increased revenue production. It's more about operational efficiency. So we focus on implementing AI on a very narrow use case. So after we select the use case as a part of the workshop, we do a pre-AI process assessment where we examine the process, every single step, who does each step. If the company allows us access to pay data, we include that in there. If there are any tools being used as a part of the process, what's the cost of those tools? And then we derive
Mm.
a cost figure that says it costs you this much to execute just one cycle of this process that we picked. Then we implement AI, then we enable, and then we monitor, we fine tune, and then we get to a good stable point. and then we do a post AI process assessment, measuring the same exact things. And the delta between the two presents the ROI. And that's how we approach ROI analysis inside of our services.
That's really good. That's a great formula. That's
But
good. And
there's
it's something
also other ways that you can think about it. You could think about, customer success by using AI to improve how your customers interact with you. Are you seeing increases in customer success? Is that a return on investment? Absolutely. So
well, we
it's
saw
not
that with
always
Verizon.
financial returns. It's also how your customer sentiment is for your products and your services.
Yeah, and Jace, I think we were chatting about this behind the scenes, but Verizon just came out with their AI initiatives within the customer service. I think it was actually using something from Google.
Right.
They saw significant increase in sales, right? Because lack of attrition, right? Great customer service satisfaction scores, and people are purchasing more, and they were using AI.
Yeah.
It's pretty
I
interesting.
think that's a key one that people overlook when they're starting to think about ROI, because most people are thinking about, is this going to increase revenue? Is this going to cost reduction? Increasing your customer service is going to increase both of your revenue and your cost reduction.
Good, excellent.
That's a
Well,
great place to start.
yeah, great place to start. Nick, you provided a great formula. Jason, you provided some metrics and just some general thoughts as well. And it's really cool to talk about ROI. And then we have some key developments happening now. It's going to get busier. Obviously, there's like a 2 week lull. I think people are waiting to see who was going to go first. So OpenAI, Anthropic. I'm sure we'll see something from Grok. DeepSeek is probably going to throw something out there. But you're right, Nick. I think it's still you feel it, and we feel it in our guts. Something big is going to happen. There's a bomb to be dropped. Maybe it's Claude. I don't know. Maybe it's my favorite, Microsoft. We didn't chat about them today, but I know they had some big things going on as well, specific to the infrastructure play or the data warehouses and all of that. Which that's another key area. So I'm looking forward to
The
chatting about
two
that.
that are floundering around that should be up in the lead is Amazon and Apple. Neither of them have really hit any type of traction yet.
I don't know about
Like,
Apple.
I don't even think I would consider them tier 2. They're down in tier 3, tier 4.
But that's what incumbents do, man. Like even Nvidia is actually like they have a very like a startup like culture, right?
Yeah.
But incumbents are going to be incumbents.
Well,
They're resting on
Google,
laurels.
I mean, they had, bunch of starts and stops with Bard and that terrible name that they had when they
I
first
remember
started.
that. I hated
I
that
was
name.
like, did they misspell Brad?
Yeah, yeah. What are the
I
Baird?
know what it
My
stands
wife's
for.
maiden name is Baird, so I'm like, is it Baird? It's like, what is this?
But once they got focused, they have been producing
Yeah,
quality models and
Yeah.
outperforming everyone else and really putting a lot of pressure on OpenAI to continue to be innovative.
yeah. Hey, I'd love tomorrow because we have tomorrow morning too. I wish should we start going Monday through Friday? I don't know.
Jason would love
I'd
that.
love to talk about because speaking of Apple, right? Because they're big in the game internationally. Tariffs is a big thing. So I'd love to tap into that maybe if we have time tomorrow morning and how that impacts a lot of these players here. But yeah, Apple. If I was going to bet on any one of those two, Amazon or Apple, I mean, Apple has the cash. I just don't. I don't know. I see Amazon playing, maybe having more data. I have no idea, but I don't know. Amazon just, I think they have bigger wins, and Apple's just. I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't know. All right. Well, Jason, Nick, thank you so much. That's it for today's AI Executive Morning Buzz. We covered a lot: ROI, AI developments. We threw some zingers in there as we always do, some wrenches, some modeling, some orchestration. I love that. I'm going to steal that one. And then don't trust anything, right? Abacus.ai. Check it out in the comments. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We're over 1,000 subscribers now. That's just and we said 2 months, but actually it was a little less than that, about a month and a half.
Yeah.
And so it's going to continue to grow even more. We cannot wait. We're so excited. So please join us tomorrow morning. And as I mentioned, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Sam, we're excited. We have a new episode of the podcast. You can find it on YouTube, on Spotify. Steve Ayer from signals.ai. Very excited about that. For those of you in sales and marketing, you have to watch it. It will be launching actually here shortly. we'll go and be official out there on all of our platforms. So super excited about that. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Nick, Jason, Sam. Thank you. We'll see you all tomorrow morning.